Chaos erupted in the chemistry lab at Westwood High School. Jake Miller, the most feared bully in school, had his hands wrapped around the throat of young chemistry teacher Ms. Collins. The class froze in shock, everyone holding their breath. What Jake would learn that day was that behind Miss Collins' unassuming appearance lay a hidden truth. Before earning her teaching degree, Kate Collins had been one of the Special Forces' top hand-to-hand combat instructors, and it would take her just 3 seconds to teach Jake the lesson of his life. It was 10:45 a.m. In room 208, Westwood High's chemistry laboratory, a standard experimental procedure, was transforming into one of the most dangerous moments in the school's history. A tension now hung in the air amidst the lingering scent of chemicals. Under the bright fluorescent lights of the laboratory, the power dynamic between 24 students and one teacher was about to change forever. Kate Collins, 28, was a mild-mannered chemistry teacher with honey-brown hair and a height of 5 feet 7 inches. She typically wore her straight hair in a practical ponytail, dressed in simple clothes, and applied minimal makeup. Her blue eyes concealed an intelligent gaze, and her smile was genuine and reassuring. Kate maintained perfect order in her laboratory, all chemicals labeled, all equipment clean and functional. She was always patient and understanding with her students, striving to make complex topics accessible. This was her first year at Westwood, and most students had taken to her, appreciating her enthusiasm in teaching, her ability to relate chemistry to real life, and her effort to see potential in every student. Dr. Howard, the head of the chemistry department, had described Kate as the most talented young teacher he had seen in years. Her colleagues respected her dedication, arriving early, staying late, offering extra help to students, and constantly researching innovative teaching methods. Once she even sacrificed her own time to tutor the mother of a struggling student in chemistry so the mother could help her son. However, some students mistook her gentle nature for weakness, especially Jake Miller. Jake, 18, was the star of the school's football team, standing about 6 feet 3 inches with broad shoulders. His dark brown hair was always styled with gel, his sharp green eyes usually narrowed in a dismissive gaze. He always wore expensive clothes, carried the latest smartphone, and walked the school corridors as if they were his personal kingdom. During his 4 years at Westwood, he had built himself an empire of intimidation. He extorted money from younger students, terrorized his peers, and even intimidated some teachers. Teachers overlooked his behavior, partly due to his athletic achievements and partly because of his father's position on the school board. Jake's father, Robert Miller, was one of the wealthiest businessmen in town, running a construction empire and serving as the primary donor for the school's new sports complex. Mr. Miller always justified his son's behavior, using phrases like, "My son is just a bit energetic," or "Leaders are always misunderstood." Jake always traveled with two loyal followers, Travis Reed and Cody Bennett. Travis was a red-headed football player, not as big as Jake, but equally ruthless. Cody played more of the brain role, smart but manipulative, usually making the plans that Jake executed. The three of them roamed the corridors of Westwood like a group of terrorists. Jake targeted anyone who threatened his authority, and Ms. Collins had become his latest target. Previous teachers had either submitted to him or ignored him, but Kate Collins was different. She forced Jake to behave just like other students, to come prepared, be respectful, and make an effort. That morning had started normally. Ms. Collins was conducting a laboratory exercise on chemical reactions. Students were performing experiments on acid-base neutralization, observing pH changes. The lab had begun with a rigorous safety briefing, protective eyewear, gloves, procedures for chemical spills. Students worked in pairs, almost everyone. Jake had once again intimidated his lab partner and made him do all the work. His partner, Alex Martinez, was a quiet, intelligent Hispanic-American student, standing 5 feet 5 inches. Alex was one of Jake's favorite targets, a bookworm, member of the science club, and openly gay. Jake constantly called him names like fag and nerd and hid his belongings. While Alex performed the entire experiment alone, Jake sat at the table playing a game on his phone. "Jake, would you please put your phone away?" Ms. Collins asked gently while helping Sophia and Maria at the adjacent table with a pH measurement. "Laboratory safety requires everyone's attention." Jake looked up from his phone with a mocking smile. Not now, Ms. C. I'm at a critical level. Cody and Travis snickered from the back. Ms. Collins sighed and approached him, lowering her voice so only he could hear. Jake, if you don't put your phone away, I'll have to deduct points from your lab grade. This could drop you to an insufficient average and affect your status on the football team. This caught Jake's attention. The expression on his face changed, his mocking smile disappearing. He slowly rose from his seat, towering over his 5'7" teacher. Other students in the class began to notice the situation, conversations ceasing. Are you threatening me? Jake said, his voice low but menacing. Ms. Collins didn't back down. This isn't a threat, Jake. Just a reminder of the rules. Rules that apply to everyone. Jake smirked arrogantly. My dad built half this school, he said. Some rules don't apply to everyone, Ms. C. In this classroom, Jake, the rules are the same for everyone, said Kate, with a new determination in her voice. Put your phone away and help your partner, or I will deduct points from your lab grade. Jake's face turned red. His dark green eyes flashed with anger. He looked around, saw the class watching him. He filled with the shame of his low status being challenged, especially by a woman and in front of everyone. He grabbed a glass beaker from the laboratory table and hurled it angrily to the floor. The glass shattered, pieces scattering everywhere. Everyone in the room froze. Several girls screamed. You don't care about me, do you? Jake shouted, his face flushed, neck veins prominent. Do you know who I am? My father finances this school. My father could have you jobless by tomorrow. Ms. Collins' expression remained unchanged, calm, controlled, and determined. She looked at the glass shards thrown to the floor a minute ago, then turned her gaze to Jake. Jake, you're going to the vice principal's office right now. This behavior is unacceptable. You've endangered everyone in the class. This was the last straw for Jake. He lunged forward in the narrow laboratory aisle, in one move grabbing Ms. Collins by the collar and pushing her against the nearest wall. His fingers tightened around the teacher's throat, his face contorted with rage. You can't tell me what to do, he hissed, his face just inches from Kate's. Who do you think you are? You're just a low-paid, insignificant teacher. The entire laboratory froze. Seconds felt like centuries. Several girl students ran toward the door to seek help. Alex looked frightened, but was about to step forward. Even Cody and Travis looked uncomfortable. This was going much further than Jake had gone before. Some students stood frozen in shock, while others prepared to run for help. But nothing could have prepared them for what their teacher would do. Something changed in Miss Collins' eyes. That gentle look vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating expression, as if a switch had been flipped. Every muscle in her body suddenly tensed, her posture subtly shifting. Only the most observant eyes could notice this small change. But this was the moment Kate's body transformed into that of a trained warrior. In just 3 seconds, 3 perfect movements were executed. First second, Ms. Collins grasped Jake's thumb and twisted it, instantly loosening his grip on her throat, with such an angle and pressure that Jake moaned in pain. This was a Kyusho Jitsu technique, using pressure points, minimal force for maximum effect. Second, a foot movement that disrupted Jake's balance. This technique from Aikido manipulated the opponent's center of gravity, making them use their own strength against themselves. Simultaneously, Collins grabbed Jake's wrist with her free hand and twisted it. Third second, a turn, a controlled fall, and the 200-pound football star was laid out on the laboratory floor, using his own momentum. This was a judo throw, a technique effective regardless of the opponent's size or strength. Miss Collins now stood over Jake, professionally controlling his wrist, applying enough pressure to cause pain, but not enough to cause damage. The entire class stood in shocked silence. The silence was so deep that even Jake's surprised breathing could be heard. The expression on his face, a mixture of shock, fear, and disbelief, was worth seeing. If you move, your wrist will break, said Ms. Collins in a calm voice, as if explaining a chemical equation. This isn't a threat, just a reminder of the laws of physics. Force and counterforce, causality, action, reaction. You understand, don't you? Jake, mouth open, looked up in complete astonishment. Who are you? He whispered. Before Ms. Collins could answer, Vice Principal Johnson came running in and burst into the classroom, encountering this extraordinary scene. The school's most feared bully lying on the floor, the gentle chemistry teacher holding him in a professional move. "Ms. Collins, what?" said Johnson in astonishment. He was a tall, bald man in his 50s, known for being strict about school discipline. But right now he looked completely stunned. "Mr. Johnson, I suggest you call security on the phone," said Ms. Collins, continuing to keep Jake under control. "Mr. Miller physically assaulted a teacher here. He also deliberately destroyed laboratory equipment and endangered the entire class." Johnson hesitated for a moment, then nodded and ran into the corridor. Jake may have thought about resisting for a moment, but a slight increase in pressure on his wrist dissuaded him. "Stay calm, Jake," said Ms. Collins, now in a softer voice. "No one is hurt. Just stay calm and don't make this situation any worse." These words were perhaps what Jake needed to calm down. For a moment, he looked like he might cry, maybe from pain, maybe from shame, or perhaps from the weight of reality crushing down on him. This could be the end of his career. The football scholarship, college dreams, all could vanish because of an outburst of anger. After security personnel came and took Jake away, the laboratory turned into a buzz of excitement. Students excitedly discussing what they had just witnessed. Ms. Collins returned to her usual calm demeanor, carefully cleaned up the broken glass, didn't tell anyone she had slightly cut her own hand, and directed the students to an alternative activity for the rest of the class, as if she hadn't just single-handedly taken down a 200-pound football player. During the hours following the incident, the school was abuzz with gossip. By lunchtime, dozens of versions of the story had circulated. Some said Miss Collins was a ninja, others that she was a secret agent. Some students claimed she had 3 black belts, while others insisted she was actually a government agent hiding at the school. The truth was even more interesting than the students' imagination. That afternoon, Sophia, one of Kate's brightest students, stopped by her classroom. "Ms. Collins," she said in a tentative voice, "that was really impressive. How did you—" "I mean, Jake," Kate smiled. "I have some self-defense training, Sophia, a useful skill for anyone to know." "Could you teach us?" Sophia suddenly asked. "I mean, most of us don't know how to defend ourselves against someone like Jake." Kate looked thoughtful. "Maybe. But for now, please don't exaggerate what happened, okay? I just defended myself. I don't want to hurt anyone." "But Jake was trying to hurt you," said Sophia. "We all saw it." "Yes," said Kate in a soft voice. "And sometimes we need to protect ourselves, but not for revenge or to make a show of power, just to stay safe." When Principal Williams called Ms. Collins to her office, the teacher had already accepted the situation. She knew her identity would be revealed, but perhaps this would even be a relief, not having to constantly wear a mask. "Kate," said Williams, closing the door. She was a middle-aged, well-dressed woman who had been the principal at Westwood for 15 years and cared deeply about her school and students. "What happened there?" "Jake Miller's father is furious. He says his son has bruises on his wrists and wants you fired, even wants your license revoked." Kate sighed. "I defended myself, Ms. Williams. Jake broke laboratory equipment, then grabbed me by the throat. You can check the security camera footage." "Yes, yes, I've seen them," said Williams, returning to her desk and glancing at a file. "The video is quite explanatory. But how? I mean, it was so professional." Kate thought for a moment, then took a file from her bag and placed it on the desk. Williams opened the file and blinked. "My first career wasn't teaching, Principal. Before I earned my chemistry degree, I served in the Army." "The Army?" "Special Forces, actually. I was a hand-to-hand combat instructor. For 8 years, I served in Afghanistan and Iraq. I trained high-level personnel." Williams' eyes widened. "Wow, this isn't in your CV." "Because I didn't want to be known for this," said Kate with a hint of sadness in her voice. "I'm no longer military personnel. I'm a teacher. I want to use my knowledge and skills to teach the students chemistry, not to lay them out on the floor." Williams looked at a photo in the file, a younger Kate in military uniform during a medal ceremony. "Why did you change? You seem successful in the Army." Kate took a deep breath. "I saw too much violence, Miss Williams. Too much destruction, Too much pain. I wanted to build something, not destroy, to create, not annihilate. And science, chemistry, these are tools for understanding the world and making it a better place. Williams nodded thoughtfully, looking at Kate with new respect. What if Jake's family sues? They're making threats right now. Kate smiled. Show the security camera footage to their lawyers. I used minimal force, just enough to neutralize the threat. No more, no less. Also, Jake's physical assault on a teacher will probably be a bigger problem for them. Williams relaxed. True. Actually, I was hoping this situation might be a wake-up call for Jake. We've been overlooking this kind of behavior for too long. Maybe far too long. Sometimes the harshest lessons are the best learned, said Kate. Jake is a smart kid. He just needs education in boundaries and consequences. Williams thought for a moment. Sophia Harrison suggested to me the idea of you starting a club to teach students your abilities. What do you think? Kate smiled. Self-defense? Maybe. But if I do it, it will be purely self-defense. And more importantly, I'll teach self-discipline, respect, and self-control. These were the most valuable lessons I learned throughout my military career. I think that could be wonderful, said Williams. Students need these skills, both physically and mentally. Later that day, as Ms. Collins was gathering her things, Alex Martinez approached her, the quiet, intelligent boy who was usually one of Jake's favorite targets. Ms. Collins, really, the Army, he stammered. Kate smiled. Yes, Alex? That was really cool, said Alex with a new respect and admiration in his eyes. To stand up to someone like Jake. I could never, Kate gently touched Alex's shoulder. Alex, power isn't always in muscle mass or physical size. Real power is in discipline, control, and self-respect. Things Jake has never had. Alex nodded, an understanding dawning in his eyes. These techniques, could you teach them to us? For self-defense. Kate thought about it. Maybe, but only for self-defense purposes, never for attacking or showing off. I understand, said Alex, starting to smile. Control and discipline. Absolutely, said Kate, because with great power comes great responsibility. That evening, Jake's father made a frantic phone call to Principal Williams, threatening expulsion, lawsuits, and even revoking Kate's license. When Kate was called to the principal's office, Robert Miller was there, large, threatening, wearing an expensive suit and red with anger. This woman, he said, pointing at Kate with his finger, broke my son's wrist, threw him to the floor. Is this how a teacher behaves, using violence against students? Mr. Miller, Kate said in a calm voice, your son first broke laboratory equipment, then physically attacked me. He held my throat and prevented me from breathing. I defended myself, and in doing so, I used minimal force. His wrist isn't broken, just bruised. Nonsense, Miller roared. Jake would never assault a teacher. Mr. Miller, said Principal Williams, turning her computer around. Let's watch the security camera footage, shall we? The video clearly showed Jake's attack in Kate's professional, controlled response. Miller's face changed as he watched the video, from anger to surprise, then to shame. This isn't my son, he said, now in a softer voice. Jake is usually calm. Jake regularly bullies other students at school, Mr. Miller, Williams said gently. We've been overlooking this for a long time, due to his athletic achievements and your generous contributions to the school. But this was the moment a line was crossed. Miller sat down, suddenly looking very tired. What can we do? Jake needs mandatory anger management counseling, said Kate, and a way to give back to the school community. Perhaps community service. Maybe even family counseling together, with you participating. Sometimes children reflect what they see from their fathers. Miller's head suddenly rose, anger flashing in his eyes, then slowly fading. I suppose you might be right, he finally said. Jake received a 1-week suspension and mandatory anger management counseling. Kate was completely cleared by the school board and, with Principal Williams' encouragement, was invited to start an after-school self-defense club. As Kate returned home from school, she thought about how strangely relieving the whole incident had been. For years, she had to hide a part of her identity. chemistry teacher, former soldier. These two identities rarely mixed. And now perhaps she didn't have to maintain this separation. When she entered her apartment, her cat Schrodinger greeted her at the door. Yes, it was the most cliché name a chemistry teacher could give a cat, but Kate couldn't resist. In her simple, orderly apartment, there were few traces of her military past, a few medals standing on a bookshelf, a photograph with old friends from the Special Forces unit on a shelf. Kate lived modestly in her preferred lifestyle. She could have been wealthy, could have found high-paying jobs in the private security sector, but she chose to teach. When she checked her phone, there was a message from her former commander. Apparently, the incident at school had spread on social media, and her old military friends had seen it. Collins, still in shape, the message said, followed by a smiley face emoji. Kate smiled. A week after Jake was suspended from school, he unexpectedly came to Kate's classroom. He still had a bandage on his forearm, but the expression on his face was softer. The arrogant, challenging look he always carried was gone, replaced by a more cautious, almost vulnerable expression. "Miss Collins," he said, hesitating at the door. "Can we talk?" Kate nodded and invited him in. The students were at lunch, so the classroom was empty, with just sunlight filtering through the windows and the smell of chemicals. I, I'm sorry, said Jake, the words seeming difficult to come out of his mouth. He placed a paper on the desk in front of Kate, a written apology letter. "What I did was unacceptable. I endangered you and the entire class." "Thank you, Jake," said Kate without any trace of triumph in her voice. "Your apology is accepted." Jake looked relieved, but something was still bothering him. He couldn't look directly into Kate's eyes. "Everyone is talking about your background, special forces, hand-to-hand combat expert, and other things." Kate nodded. "Yes, that's part of who I am. But now I'm a teacher, a chemistry teacher." "Why did you change?" Jake asked. "I mean, you were so powerful, and now here in a high school, with another bully kid almost." "Choking me?" Kate completed, smiling. "Jake, you're not the first person to squeeze my throat. I've faced much more dangerous people." Jake lowered his head in shame. Kate thought for a moment. "Power comes in different forms, Jake. Yes, I have the physical ability to take someone down, but to change someone's world, to instill in them knowledge, curiosity, and passion, I think that's a much greater power." Jake fell silent as he absorbed this. "I left the military because I wanted to create, not destroy," Kate continued. "After all the destruction I saw, I thought it would be more meaningful to help shape young minds and hearts. Chemistry fascinated me for this reason. There's beauty in its structure, in transformation." "I'm not good at chemistry," said Jake, with a slight smile. "Because you've never really tried," said Kate. "I don't expect you to be a genius, Jake. I just want you to make an effort, be honest, and be respectful. These are the most fundamental things for success in life." "How's your anger management counseling going?" Kate asked, changing the subject. Jake shrugged. "Actually, it's helping. My dad is participating too, which is really surprising. I guess we all have things to learn." "We all do," said Kate sincerely. "I learn every day too." Jake stood up, about to leave. When he reached the door, he stopped and turned. "Ms. Collins, can I ask one more question? When I grabbed your throat, why didn't you react immediately? I mean, you could have made that move, right? Why did you wait?" Kate looked at Jake carefully. "Because I always give an opportunity for de-escalation before responding. If there's a different option, violence should never be the first choice." Jake nodded, appearing deep in thought, then left the classroom. The following week, Kate's after-school self-defense club began. A corner of the gymnasium was equipped with exercise mats. Kate wore plain sweatpants and a simple t-shirt, far from the formal appearance of her old military uniform. 15 students had come, some curious, some genuinely wanting to learn. Unexpectedly, one of the first members was Jake Miller. He stood at the door again hesitantly. Others received him with surprise, some approaching his presence with suspicion, especially Alex. But Jake was there to learn, and Kate didn't turn him away. "Welcome," said Kate to the group. "Thank you for joining this club. First, let's agree on what you will and won't learn here. This is not a fight club." Several students sighed in disappointment. This is a self-defense club, and real self-defense always begins with avoiding conflict. I will teach you physical techniques, yes, but we'll also learn awareness, de-escalation, and self-control. These skills are far more valuable than any physical technique. Kate continued, making eye contact with each student. You will never ever use what you learn here to show off, intimidate someone, or make a display of power. I'm teaching these skills because everyone deserves to be safe. But power is a great responsibility. If you violate these rules, you'll be removed from the club. Every student nodded, indicating they understood, including Jake. The first lesson began with basic stance, balance, and breathing techniques. Kate demonstrated the correct position of feet, weight distribution, and strengthening the center. Though it seems simple, these fundamental skills were the foundation of effective self-defense. At the end of the lesson, Jake approached Kate. "This isn't what I expected," he said. "I thought you'd show more punches and kicks." "In time," said Kate, "but first you must learn the basics. Just as in chemistry, you can't understand complex reactions before understanding atoms and molecules." Jake smiled. "You sound like a good teacher." "Because I am a teacher, Jake," said Kate with a genuine smile. "Above all else." 6 months later, Westwood High School had become a different place. Bullying incidents had dramatically decreased. The self-defense club had become one of the most popular activities at the school, teaching not just physical techniques, but also values of discipline, respect, and self-control. While teaching her students self-defense, Kate also conveyed to them the essence of Aikido philosophy. The real battle is against oneself. True victory is winning without fighting. Students were learning to apply this wisdom not just in dojos, but in their daily lives. Jake Miller, once the most feared bully in school, was now known for protecting younger students. His transformation had been a source of inspiration for the entire school. In the self-defense club, Jake served as a mentor to younger students, imparting to them not just techniques, but also lessons in respect and self-discipline. One day during a biology laboratory, Jake was seen intervening to stop a larger student from bothering a ninth-grade student. "Power is shown not in putting someone down, but in lifting them up," Jake said seriously, echoing Ms. Collins' words. At that moment, Kate Collins was passing through the corridor. She smiled but wasn't surprised. In her military career, she had trained dozens of warriors and fought on battlefields. But perhaps one of her greatest victories was right here, in a bully's transformation, a school's transformation, and in teaching a child who once believed only in power what true power really meant. Jake's father, Robert Miller, gave a speech at the opening of the school's newly built science building. "Sometimes we receive the most valuable lessons from the most unexpected teachers," he said, looking directly at Kate. "And sometimes a warrior's greatest victory is bringing peace." At the end of that year, Ms. Collins organized the annual demonstration of the Self-Defense Club. Students showed their families and teachers the techniques and philosophy they had learned. Jake gave the opening speech and shared his own transformation story, from bullying to mentoring, from arrogance to confidence. As Kate watched her students, she understood once more that she had made the right decision, leaving the military and becoming a teacher, because these young minds and hearts would shape the future, and perhaps, just perhaps, the change in each of them would make the world a better place. Sometimes life's most unexpected turns bring the most valuable lessons, and sometimes a teacher's greatest lesson extends far beyond the class curriculum. It reaches into life itself. That June at the graduation ceremony, Kate Collins was chosen as the honorary speaker. When she approached the podium, the entire school gave her a standing ovation. That modest chemistry teacher had now earned a special place in the hearts of the entire school community. "Life sometimes gives us pop quizzes, sometimes textbooks," Kate told the graduating class. "But the most important lessons often come from the most unexpected places. True power is being able to control yourself. True victory is not defeating your enemies, but overcoming your own fears and prejudices. And true wisdom is being open to learning from every situation and every person." Jake sat in the front row, his family beside him. In his graduation gown, he looked far from the angry boy he once was. In the fall, he would go to the state university and study education. Perhaps one day he would become a teacher too. Life indeed progresses in the most unexpected ways, and sometimes a small fight in a laboratory can change many lives. Did you enjoy this story? If so, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever received a life lesson from an unexpected person? See you in our next video.